So now we're reviewing the minutes from November 4th. A motion to approve?
Do you want the motion and then a discussion about?
Yes, because there might be
amendments?
other changes people
Yeah,
have
then I
to.
move to accept these minutes from November 4th.
Thank you. Pip? Seconded. Okay, thank you, Vanessa. Comments?
I mean, if you want to dump the meeting document hyperlink, why don't we just do that?
Yeah. Any other comments? Agreed. I see people still looking at them, so that's the quiet here is to give that a moment. Looks like Pip, you're ready,
And
Andrew?
I'm abstaining because I was not at.
You were not there. Okay, great. So, I will, revise the motion, to approve the minutes with the, eliminating the list of meeting documents with hyperlinks. All in favor? 3? Okay, great. I'm doing the minutes tonight, so. Thank you all. Next item on our agenda is action item review. And at the last meeting, there were a number of items assigned to Pip and I to prepare proposed updates. We have done a lot of work on this. And Pip has provided a number of the things that are talked about in the minutes. And I'm still finalizing the document to turn it into a public review. It's just a lot of formatting. And so we've made a lot of progress on it. We feel like we're very close to a public review draft. What we'll do next is send it to the town attorney once I have it cleaned up with a couple of questions for that person to review. And then we will then publish a version that would be public review that reflects the attorney comments. And we'll bring that, the hope is to bring that to the January meeting, though I'm not sure we're going to get the attorney comments now between now. I mean, I'm not sure the holidays will allow that. So we'll see what schedule we have with the town attorney, but that's the next step. The other remaining action items, the ZBM is, the stage 2 project for the forest block preservation land use policy. We will be taking that on once we're finished with stage 1. So we are planning that. And for that, I expect that we'll be planning a new project advisory committee because this wonderful advisory committee was committed through December. So arguably this could be your last meeting, even though we're not quite done, but we did ask you to be with us through that. Would be a good thing to talk about when we get to the zoning. We put that on the agenda committee. Continuation. Okay, let's do it. Okay. And yes, we'll be seeking resources to help us do it. That's one. And D is planning commission to seek other avenues to effectively inform Putney community members, and we will certainly do that when we get ready, even finishing stage 1 in addition to stage 2. So the conservation village, the comprehensive village plan, today we are going to address all those things that were listed there. So that is now actually complete. And I'm working on a status report for the town plan for the select board. That's been a little deferred, but I hope to do that in January. And I will be talking today a little bit about the budget for the planning commission for FY27. I'm working with the town manager on that. So that's at the end of the meeting here. I have that as a topic. And on second page, the Putney Landing walkway, we had advanced, there's an RFP that's been sent to a construction management firm, and we expect a proposal back January 6th. On housing, I've been continuing to move forward housing strategies. Today, I attended the Southeast Vermont Housing Coalition, doing a strategic plan for the region, which is mostly Windham County.
Is Bennington in that?
Bennington is not part of that.
And not southeast, Chinook?
Southeast
Yeah.
Vermont, so
Yeah.
they're
Southwest. Vermont.
southwest, the other side of the boat.
If they're not Southwest Vermont, then there is no Southwest Vermont.
Got it.
We needed the map expert to just clarify that for us. Thank you, Andrew. Since you're adding all of that into the meeting already.
Yes, I'm glad I came.
So that meeting, is very helpful. It includes, at the moment, only two other planning commissions, Londonderry and, Guilford. And actually Dummerston was there today, which was very interesting. So I got to talk to the Dummerston Planning Commission member. And it's a place where we can move forward some of the things that are shared services with other towns, like the housing administrator. I also talked about zoning administration. These are things that are needed for us to really move forward housing, because we can't do all of this on our own. So is going into the strategic plan to do, to support the development of these operational projects of what I call the coalition of the willing, the towns that really want to do that, and let's do a pilot and move it forward. So that was very important because I think it's on the radar. Other people, including it will be in the radar of legislators in our region. So
It's interesting that Guilford was part of that. Am I correct in saying they don't have zoning?
I don't,
that's right, and they're actually have, their planning commission is taking on zoning. Good luck to them.
think they tried once before.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a new chair and she's reached out to me and, but she's very interested in some of the housing things that we're doing. She said whether or not they're zoning, those are interesting issues for Guilford, so.
Yeah, because Windsor's been involved in Algiers, I guess,
Yes.
the intersection on Route 5.
Right.
I guess to my mind's eye that zoning is one of the major strings to be pulled in terms of the town trying to move the needle, but maybe
Yes, it could be.
there are not a lot of strings to pull.
There's not a lot of strings to pull. You wind up being in more of an incentive kind of mode,
Yeah.
to try to
Yeah.
move things forward. But
Well, in
it's,
some ways, I don't want to go down that path,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
if there seem, people are complaining about regulatory hurdles related to zoning, or the need in towns with zoning to make specific
oh, there's
accommodations
people in the
for
waiting room, sorry. Yeah.
specific accommodations for housing, when you don't have any regs, that's all a moot discussion.
Yes,
So, the market will drive, it will be whatever.
it will be whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that this kind of collaboration among towns is of great interest. And I said, well, if we want to do this, we need a forum to be able to pull it together. And I appreciate that the Southeast Vermont Housing Coalition is a place to do that.
Who hosts that? Who created that coalition?
Yeah, it's sort of, it is Vermont Housing Community Development to some degree, provides money, and I'm trying to remember I'm not gonna tell the story exactly right. There is a person who's part-time funded, Sue Graff, who otherwise works in Brattleboro, who is funded to do some coordination on housing in the region, so she,
Funded by the state.
yes,
That's interesting.
it's just a very part-time
Yeah.
role,
Yeah, but that's still great.
yeah.
It seems like it could be effective.
The largest number of people there are those who are dealing with issues of homelessness. And that's great. I mean, and again, it's part of the whole constellation of needs to be addressed. So that is a way that I'm trying to move housing solutions forward, is through a venue like that to bring other people together. And I'll be attending a workshop, which is in your packet here, in January, that is organized by Sevens, that we'll be talking about some of our housing opportunities and solutions and new state programs. So,
Sue,
yes,
you actually said there were people in the waiting room?
I'd let them in.
Okay. What's the local Putney housing group doing?
Well, there's the planning commission work that we're doing. The town advisory committee has been terminated, so we don't have a town select board appointed advisory committee. That was ended, I think in July or something.
But there is a group that's working on housing.
But there's the Housing Solutions Task Force that Marcella Eversole
Yes.
she's moved to Keene.
Okay.
For one.
She still attended the last task force meeting.
Okay, good.
It's on the agenda, but I attended the last task
Right.
force meeting. The task force is at the moment looking to get more people who are willing to say, we're gonna step on for the process of applying to it's one of our, who's the Sevka?
It's Sevka they're
Yeah,
applying to.
so they're applying to Sevka,
Together,
who,
501c3, like.
who has agreed to host
Yeah,
a pool of money, sort
Oh.
of give them an umbrella for a 503c, so they could host a pool of money that then can be utilized to support projects.
Yes,
Either in a short-term loan capacity, et cetera.
that's something that Bert Tepper is leading.
Yes,
That-
so after sort of exploring what a lot of other towns have done, as well as exploring multiple options, this Sevka Avenue is the avenue that's been decided is likely to be the most successful.
Yeah.
But the task force has shrunk over time.
Yes.
Across the short time it's been an entity, and they're looking for people who are willing to be a part of that to get through the Sevka application.
Yeah,
And then there will be another ask for potentially the same or a separate group of people who will later be willing to deal with acquiring those funds, distributing those funds,
sort of service the board.
administering,
for
yeah,
that,
yes.
yeah.
But at the moment, they're looking for people just to be part of the process
Yeah.
to help through the application to Sevka, which at the moment is not even a known entity. Like there is not a form in hand to say, oh, this is really easy or this is really complicated.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm doing some outreach. I've reached a couple of people who have a background in banking and loan crimes and that kind of thing.
yeah,
And I've interest of one person, but they just left for a trip to Australia and will come back in mid-January. And I said,
Why
well,
would you
that'll be
come back
good.
from
Just-
Australia?
Yeah, I hope you can come back in. Anyway, yes, they do want people like that.
Yeah.
And thank you for that report. I haven't been able to attend Bert's meetings. I mean, I read his emails, which is great to see it happening. I think that's terrific that they have this partnership with
Yeah.
Sevka. So,
well, they don't have it yet.
not yet, but that they're in the
Yeah.
conversation. So that is the primary thing that is moving forward. So thank you for that update. And so that's the answer. You know,
Thank
I
you.
think that, yeah. I'll just say that it's related to this housing and the task force in that Marcella in particular had teed up a conversation with VCRD to do a sort of reconvening in January to talk about what has happened since the last, since the almost like a 2-year reconvening and celebration, and to renew, some of the initiatives and so forth. There was supposed to be an effort, to get a place and do outreach to people, and nothing has happened. This meeting would be in mid-January.
Yeah.
And there's a few of us who are feeling like we don't have bandwidth to do it. We'd rather do something at town meeting, have tables and things there for people. But to create another meeting in January feels hard to do.
I mean, the whole thing feels like the typical situation of a good idea with not enough humans willing to donate their time to it.
Yeah. I will give it a more positive spin than that,
Sure.
Andrew. I think that it set things in motion. One, it really informed the town plan. We did not begin until that was done.
Yeah,
And
no,
our first.
I'm not saying we shouldn't, I'm just saying all of this, like the
Yeah,
Housing Task Force, Planning Commission.
yeah,
You know, all of these efforts are run by the energies of a select few, which is,
yes.
God bless those people, but, yeah, they could
Yeah.
all use more bodies and energies.
Yeah, and Discover Putney, you know, is trying to do its 501(c)(3) and become something, so,
Yeah.
I think some good things have come, but I think trying to do a reconvening personally right now is, not gonna be my top priority for my time, you know,
Yeah,
so that has to be revisited, so good that I mentioned that. I did talk with the town manager about it, who says she doesn't have time to plan something either, nor does the head of Discover Putney, who's gonna be in Europe at that time, so.
Marcella lives in Keene.
And she lives
I
in
live
Keene.
in Dummerston.
Right, so,
Was Ari there?
This was there. God, I'm terrible with names.
Just Ari as sort of the other,
he
Yeah.
has not been involved for a long time.
No.
He dropped
He's not
out
there.
there, a year ago plus.
Joshua, he's a,
Yeah,
is that?
he came to one of our
Builder?
meetings,
Yeah.
yes. Mhm.
That's the other person in attendance.
And I think Dylan, Hopkins has gone to some of it, so.
Wasn't at the one that I
No.
last attended.
Yeah. So it's a small effort, and, I appreciate it because it really is one element of our housing strategy was to
Sure.
do that, and I had more time, I'd help them more, but I'm gonna try
Yeah.
to find some people that can.
And if the money were in the fund today, it also seems like one of the elements of our housing strategy that is like ready and waiting, right? This started because there are interested parties who want to take action on building.
Yeah.
And so unlike some of the other strategies that are like hoping to make something more desirable or hoping to make something easier, this is like people who are poised for action,
Yeah,
waiting for conditions to help them. So,
Yeah. yeah, well, I'm hoping that we can create some more of those conditions for them.
yeah.
Thank you, Andrew, very helpful. It's on our agenda is energy facility siting, so I'm not gonna talk about that now, that's another action item, but there has been that, oh, and yeah, this also energy, an enhanced energy plan, and I will be speaking with the fellow Anand from Wyndham Regional Commission tomorrow about writing this bill of work for us, so that I'm still moving that along, but that would be for next summer, so it's not, doesn't need a lot of time, but still real, but we do have the 5 megawatt battery certificate of good petition has been filed, and I've reviewed it, and we'll talk about that. It's on our agenda. So action items, paying attention to all those things. Any other comments on the action item review? Okay. Comprehensive Village Plan. Now, in your packet, you will find a report called, oh, wait a minute, oh, yeah, we'll do that. Then we'll come to the Planning Commission Chair report to talk about Putney Landing. Okay. So Comprehensive Village Plan, you'll see a report that also includes just a high level project schedule, the list of advisory committee members with a little analysis of gaps and, you know, what's strong and what could be stronger. And then a draft agenda, and I would like to end this meeting, this part of the meeting, get any comments and support, and then, I haven't distributed this agenda yet because I wanted to I was supposed to do this last Tuesday and I actually had it ready, but I wanted the commission to, approve this agenda, and, acknowledge this group of people that have been invited to participate on the advisory committee, and then we can talk about how we might build out the list a little bit further to address things that are missing, and then the report since my meeting this afternoon. So for now, that's my overview. If you want to just say a few things about where the project is and.
Sure, I'm I think that we are feeling pretty good about the project advisory committee. I also want to add that Rye Warfolaki, who is on this call, reached out to me right before this meeting to volunteer themselves for the project advisory committee as well. So thank you, Rye.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll add Rye to that list. We've been holding interviews with some of these committee members, and I've been really excited by their diversity of people and skills and expertise and enthusiasm. So that's good. We also have, so we're planning the meeting on Thursday. Of course, everybody's invited to that meeting, and that's just going to be an introductory meeting to kind of get a feel for the group, and then also to introduce the project to everybody. We'll also have a draft RFP to present to the committee for their review, with the goal of issuing the RFP by the end of the month, I would assume, or sooner rather than later, so that we can start getting proposals in for contractors to lead the process. And I would say that the RFP is probably about 99% done in terms of its readiness to present to the community or to the committee.
And I will get that out tomorrow, if we can wrap it up along with the agenda so people can see that.
Absolutely. Yep. Along with an invitation to the committee members.
And a list of the consultants.
Yep.
We might do a little more sorting on it, but we'll give them a list.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
I
think
think
that's the
all I have
basic
to say
thing.
about it.
Yeah, I think when we look at the list, if you go to attachment A, table 2, this talks about where we have gaps relative to the knowledge, skills, and perspectives that we wanted to have at the table. So we're very strong in a range of areas, community centers, though I would have to say, Nancy, you're on my list, but I wanted to make sure that if you all wanted to be on the comprehensive village plan, that the community center, I just hadn't had time to do any additional outreach, but we're strong in that area. But if you would like to be part of this, I think you all reach another part of the community that we don't.
Do they meet on Tuesdays?
It'll be exactly the same as this, except we're meeting on Thursday. But planning commission meetings by decree from the town is the first Tuesday of every month. We have special meetings like tonight because we scheduled a snowstorm, and then we had to fit in another meeting just to be able to get this RFP going, so we made that for Thursday. Doesn't work.
I have a previous commitment on Tuesday,
Yeah.
a long-standing commitment.
Is there anybody else from?
I will ask.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, so. But we're generally strong, and you can see the list of who's been invited and who's checked off in that box. Yeah, we are missing, though, again, a little update, local housing providers, local affordable housing providers, housing solutions organizations. There is one organization that does do all those things, and that's Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust. We did talk to them since September. We've been inviting them to put their hand up, and they keep saying, oh, yes, we plan to. I talked to Marion Major today because she was at the meeting, and I said, Marion, are you going to do this? And she said, oh, yes. So she just keeps, that would be one, is Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust, and they will definitely, they have a number of properties here, so it's good for them to be on the committee, but other housing providers would be helpful, and housing solutions organizations would be good. People who are on the ground in Putney, in the village, I think we're trying to do that, so there could be other people there.
It's gotta be a limited list.
It is a
We
limited
should know
list,
who all the housing
right?
providers in the village are, right?
Yes,
But can that be landlords?
yes,
Yeah, so I mean,
it can be.
you go through that list, there can't be a ton of people
Not a lot of people,
no.
and there are not a lot of people who want to have time for something like this.
Yeah,
We will invite people to the
Yeah.
charrettes and, the community meetings. This is really advisory. So if anybody has a name of somebody they'd like to suggest, we can do some outreach. My plan is, other than Marion, Major, who I've been talking to for 3 months about this, who I think might come to the Thursday meeting. We'll see. We'll talk tomorrow. We can invite people to come to the March meeting. So the next meeting will be March. We're doing this to review the RFP. We're going to get it out. The schedule is to have the proposals in January so that at the February meeting, February 3rd Planning Commission meeting, we can approve selection of a contractor and then have them come to a meeting in March, whether that can be our March 10th meeting, because it's the second Tuesday, because the first Tuesday's town meeting. We'll see. It depends on who's selected and can they do that meeting? Otherwise, we'll do another meeting in March to kick off with the consultant and convene the advisory committee again. So that's how that would work.
So the meeting, is this Thursday coming?
This Thursday is the first meeting of this advisory committee
And it's when and where?
here at 6:30
Okay,
to 8 o'clock.
thank you.
And you can see in this packet, the agenda tells you everything. Yep, right there, the time and place. So that's where we are. All right. And Chris Campany will address the meeting, which is very nice, and talk about his experience in doing this type of work and his recommendations and thoughts about the process for Putney. And resources that Wyndham Regional can offer and how their work relates to it. So that's the project. Any questions? Otherwise, I want to get comments on the agenda and on the nomination committee. It would be good just to have an acknowledgement of that committee. And the people nominated and recommended by Vanessa and myself.
So I have a question. This is Doug.
Hang on.
Can you hear me okay?
Just a minute, Doug. I'm trying to let Jim Oliver into the meeting.
Okay.
Joined late. Welcome, Jim. Okay, go ahead, Doug. You had a comment, question?
Yeah, I was reading through the minutes and everything a little earlier today, and I recalled that several months ago, you had asked for input on the grant, or I think it was a grant, not the RFP. I made a suggestion. I'd like to see if that suggestion is in the RFP. Would I be able to comment on that on Thursday at the meeting?
Okay, well, sure, it's fine. I mean, I think the public is welcome to attend, as you know, in addition to committee members. What you
Is
commented on,
is the RFP available online someplace?
it will be. We're just putting the final touches on that. We're gonna send that
Okay.
out with the agenda tomorrow. And we'll
Perfect,
put it,
perfect.
I'll try to get it up on the website. I never have direct control over what goes up on the website when. But it will be our effort to get it up there tomorrow if we can.
Great, thank you.
And yes, and we did write a grant proposal, and so in some ways we're beholden to what the grant tasks were. That was something you commented on back in March, but Doug.
I can't
So-
remember exactly what it was, but I think it was relatively minor and pretty illogical, but I'll just take a quick look.
Yeah, you can take a look and we'll get that out, and putting down send to Doug meeting materials. I'll try to get them posted tomorrow.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for CVP. Okay. All right, any other questions, comments? I'm just, hi, Jim. Yeah. Okay. So, let me just ask for a motion just to approve the proposed agenda for Thursday's meeting to kick off the comprehensive village plan project.
I move to approve the agenda for the committee meeting on Thursday.
Right? Yeah, for a second, let's see, approve agenda. Andrew, I think that nod was a second. And nodding is confirmed that the nod was the second.
I did say I seconded it.
Okay. All right, all in favor? Okay, great, and, just an acknowledgement that this is the committee that we have and that we welcome them to the meeting. Let's see, is that everything we had to do on that for today? I think that is it. Okay. So the next item is Putney Landing sidewalk. So for this and the next item, I'd like you to look at my report to the select board that I'll be giving on Wednesday, but I had to provide it on Friday to put it in your packet. And on page 1, you'll see the Putney Landing walkway design and construction. And Pip, do you want to just give the short story on that?
Where am I in the right?
What? Yep, you're in the right document. It's my report to the,
Oh, number 3 here.
it's number 3 at the bottom of the page onto page 3.
Let me just
Read what you did.
read what I did.
Yeah.
Oh, I
But you
enjoyed that.
can just talk about it,
Enjoyed
but
it. Yeah.
yeah.
We reviewed qualifications from firms that were at the ready list. I'd send out an email asking whether there were any firms that were interested and provided a very rough outline of what the project was. And there were a couple of firms that came back, a few that said, no, sorry, don't have time. And one GPI.
GPI
Yeah,
Engineering.
that was very interested in the project and asked several times where we were in our process and just didn't want to be forgotten. And we reviewed qualifications and with their interest as among the many aspects of their firm that qualified them, GPI was our first choice. And the process is that the town then sends out a request for proposals to that firm and they get back. And we are at this point doing a process created by the state of Vermont, VTrans, the transportation authority, to select a municipal project manager. That's what the RFP went out for. This isn't for the design services to figure out where the sidewalk should go, but for project management because it's got federal monies involved and state monies involved. Lots of T's to cross and I's to dot. So you hire a professional service. They also have engineering expertise. So that's where we are, the very first step. That person facilitates bringing on board the design consultants. So that'll be the next step.
Proposals are due January 6th, and they've said they will do that. They will provide it. So I think we'll be moving this project on. It would be marvelous to see that crosswalk.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have something material show up in town now.
It, like many of these projects, is administratively heavy because the same process could be for a $6 million, sidewalk and infrastructure plan in, the middle of Burlington. But so, we go along.
Yeah, and Pip and I were invited to this consultant selection committee by the town manager. So once that's done, the town manager will let us know what else she would like us to do, but that's our current role. So we're working to assist getting this project that we did the planning for along. And I think unless we did that, it would be hard for this to move it even at this pace. Okay. The next thing I wanted to talk about is almost a year ago, our January meeting in this year, Encore Renewable Energy came to talk about a 5 megawatt energy storage battery project they want to locate next to the solar array over by High-Low Betty Road, where there's a substation. Good location generally for this kind of thing because it's directly into the grid. Is no additional construction other than the footprint of the storage facility. And so they did file their certificate of public good in November 21st. I still haven't been able to find the docket in the Public Utility Commission records. I last looked last Thursday, but it has been filed, and it is overall a project that is appropriate for that. First of all, our zoning plays no role because it's the Public Utility Commission does that. And unless we have an enhanced energy plan, we can't really have deferential status. Nonetheless, it's generally not a bad location. It's a good location because we already have that going on there.
I think we could comment, but it doesn't have any more weight
No more than that.
than anyone else's comment.
But I'm recommending that the town become an interested party in the proceeding, because that way we can keep abreast of what's going on and we can ask questions. So for example, what would be the tax revenue? What kind of property tax revenue does this generate in other towns in Vermont? That would be very interesting for us to know.
A footprint of 0.3 acres.
Yeah,
I can't imagine that it's a tremendous revenue generator.
it's 5 megawatts. That's a pretty good size.
No, I mean, from a tax perspective.
Yeah, it's
I'm
more,
not sure
the
how the
footprint is
valuation-
0.3 acres, but it's actually in a larger property than
Yeah.
that, the area around. It's not huge.
Yeah.
It's true. It does its job in a small area. I think I can't remember. It's in the attachment that is the actual petition.
Yeah, I scanned it.
Yeah, so I think it's good for us to stay abreast of, and if anything came up that was of concern, I think the cost to the town will largely be just having emergency response ready, and people trained to do that, whatever equipment might be associated. They're generally very safe facilities. There's not been a lot of fires and that kind of thing. That said, anything can happen, so you have to be ready. So I'm following it, and I will just note that I also saw that Green Mountain Power has filed its next rate proposal for the next 4 years. And on Thursday night, there's a presentation about that and a chance for public learning about it. I'm gonna look at the recording afterwards. But I would just say that as we think about affordable housing and affordability in Putney, I'm really hoping Green Mountain Power is doing something different with its rate design. I used to do rate design, so the public used to do that at the Public Utility Commission. And I think it could work better for the community. This is not so much for municipality per se, but for everybody here. It's not something Putney will get involved in, but I'm trying to encourage other people to pay attention to what it means for people who have really limited affordability, as well as for the rest of us who are trying to be part of the grid in a responsible and affordable way. So that's more FYI. It's not really a big planning commission issue, but I think it does affect our overall goal of housing affordability and economic development. Any questions about the energy storage facility?
Now, who owns the land?
A property owner, and so it's being leased. So I don't know the name of that person. It's all in the public record, but I don't have that done. So I see Ann's here. I mean, one other issue that I mentioned in my report is that there could be natural resource impacts. I mean, anything you do has impacts on natural resources. So it's a small footprint that's related to a use that's already there. That said, I just want to let you know that that's going on. And yeah, okay. All right, that's what I have on that. Unless there's any other questions. Now you'll see in your packet, something that came to my attention from the assistant town clerk is ethics training requirements. Apparently this was something that should have come to my attention last spring or January. I don't know.
The deadline was bad.
I got it on my desk 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I'm bringing it here. I always think that ethics training is a good idea. I haven't had time to go do this. I will do it this month. I encourage all of you to do it.
Have we kept
And
any records?
what's that?
Have we kept any records of who may have done it already? I know it's.
We're supposed to
encouraged-
re-up it every 3 years.
I know,
So
I guess if I don't remember if I've done it, then I probably should be up it then.
I think you could just take the 45 minutes to do it.
Karen's
And Karen, oh, hello, Karen. Yes,
Hello, folks. So, whoops, let me put my camera on. Sorry. Here we are. So when you take the course, you will get a confirmation, and if you send that over to the town clerk, then we will check you off that you've taken that training.
yeah,
It's pretty straightforward, and to be honest with you, if you take it more than once, it's probably beneficial.
right.
So
Thank you, Karen, and I'm glad this has come to our attention.
you're welcome.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to bring that to your attention. And then lastly, I guess just another thing in our packet, it's more about upcoming things, but I'll just mention it now. There's a couple of events that relate to whether it's comprehensive village planning or economic development. There's Kevin Chu of the Vermont Futures Project is going to be doing a workshop in, let's see, on December 22nd at the Brattleboro Retreat. And I'm passing this on to, I was invited to it. I'm going to attend that. And then another economic development opportunity for municipal leaders is on January 14th. It's part of the Sevitz project and USDA. And this will be a chance to look at municipalities' role in economic development, planning for future, establishing a roadmap, kind of like a comprehensive village plan, understanding programs that can help us help the town support grand list growth, and also the new CHIP program. Karen Astley, myself, and Eileen Tulloch are going to this. It was supposed to be last week, got rescheduled because of the snowstorm. But others could come, and I think it's really very interesting background and useful information to know as we go into the comprehensive village plan. So I'm going to anything like this to try to help bring resources to our effort and to get smarter about what's going on. So I wanted to bring that to your attention as well. And if you're interested, you're welcome to attend. There is a town budget for attending workshops. There's a slight fee for some of these things, and you can ask to be reimbursed. All right. Good, I've checked everything except zoning bylaw modernization, and I said we would get there right about now. Okay. So zoning bylaw modernization, as I mentioned at the agenda review, I don't have a handout for you. I know you're all deeply disappointed not to have more paper from me. But I'm going to give Pip a chance to talk about the status of the regs and a little bit about what we have done. I'll send you more information as a follow-up to this, but in a more packaged way. So Pip, let me give you a chance to.
Okay.
give an
Nancy, I
update.
think those are my notes that I was scribbling on the back of.
Oh,
Yeah, thanks. We'll have a private chat later.
yes.
Um, We're pretty far along, or at least that's the feeling I have, is that way over the hump. Little things keep coming up. There was a DRB meeting a few days ago, and in writing the findings, thought about one or two other things that we may or may not get into. I don't know how deep to get here.
I think, let me say just the minutes that we wrote from the last meeting. go pretty deep
Yeah.
on all the issues. And I think would be more of a, what have we done? And what do we think we've accomplished in in the last few weeks, other than getting it farther along? I mean, for example, you wrote a whole section on cottage clusters.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to remember the sequence of this stuff, I don't know how much of it has been shared, but the reg now has a specific section about cottage clusters with dimensional requirements. The cottage clusters are permitted everywhere. They might be in violation of zoning density, so they get a pass. But there is a limit. They can't be that big. I think it's 8 units max. So I just borrowed from several model regs that I found in different communities. I think I shared that we discussed tiny houses, defined them and threw them in with RVs, etc. If their wheels are there and you're towing them around, then they behave like a trailer and a recreational vehicle. If they are somewhat permanently located with or without wheels, then it begins to be more of a mobile home. And they would need to comply with the requirements for water, wastewater, etc. And they're in a gray area with the state, like most of these small travel trailers. They don't meet the definition of mobile homes from the state of Vermont, which is a specific definition, including length. So they're typically smaller than that, which means that we just kind of address them like RVs. There's nothing special about them. I think they have a status that is, I mean, I wouldn't say cult, but they became popular in the minds of many as alternative lifestyle choices, and especially the handmade sort of bespoke aspect of it, which is great. It's great for people to express themselves individually. But when you look at them from a few steps back, they are some type of recreational vehicle on wheels, and so be it. So they'll behave like that from a regulatory point of view. Didn't get very far with steep slopes, back and forth, proposed a reg. Adam looked at it, really wasn't comfortable with it. The more I thought about it, the less comfortable I got with it. And because of the inability of staff and planning commissioners or DRB members or any local citizen to really evaluate these issues in any depth, left it that there is a document prepared by the state which establishes the best practices, and that becomes our reference. And we just say you should be following the best practices outlined in this document. And if you're not, then both the zoning administrator and the DRB have a path toward requesting that formal engineered plan be developed. But so there's a path. It's challenging to try to be real clear about when you would engage that, but I guess you'll know when you know.
So if there's no requirement that you be notified that someone is building on a steep slope or a slope of a certain.
If it's land development, they need to get a permit.
Okay.
Right.
And that would include, you would ask them on that application to include whether or not a slope of a certain percentage is involved. In other words, you'd need to at least know.
Yeah, I
that
think the
someone is doing
conversation.
Something on a steep slope.
Yeah, the application, I haven't seen
Everything needs a site plan.
the zoning.
It would be, but that could be a specific thing that would have to be shown on the site plan, would be like whether or not they're building on a steep slope or a flat area or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, that all that information should be
Is there
in
automatically.
a site plan. Yeah. And we do define steep slopes as 20% or more. It is really interesting to start to try to see if there's any consensus among regulatory agencies or communities with zoning. There isn't any consensus. 20% is not that steep for some people, it's quite steep for others. So at that point, we're defining that as a steep slope.
Is
It
it,
doesn't trigger anything, except that it is a wake-up call that, that this activity is occurring on a defined steep slope and really opens the door to make sure that the best practices are being followed.
what is the scale or what is the resource for defining that 20%
Yeah.
gradient?
Mhm.
Because I think Adam brought that up as well, right? Like
Yeah,
more than 20% could be from this table to the floor right here, right? That's a 45% slope. But
well, I think there's
that-
standards,
this-
among landscapers and, and
Yeah.
site engineers about percentage of slope. Percentage is typically in, feet over feet.
But measured at what scale, right?
So-
You could have very steep slopes
So,
across very short
you-
scales.
You're absolutely right, Andrew. And in our last meeting, we talked a bit about this, and where we landed is, it turns out that people don't even have a common definition necessarily, or practice for how you measure it. Your questions
Yeah.
are very important, but
Adam was trying to clarify with the state. I mean,
Right.
he CC'd us on the conversation he was having about
Yeah.
definitive mapping to facilitate him in preparing a document, for permitting. Nobody's really helping you out.
we're not getting clear answers. And so it's getting to be too deep for Putney to try to wade in.
But typically,
But
like if
having
it's-
some trigger at least starts the conversation 20%. One could argue how that's measured. That's a great point.
Yeah.
But I think we're trying to say is if it's steep, you should get it. You should be following best practices. And there's a pathway, as Pip said, for the zoning administrator or the DRB. If they're concerned, if there's a reason to be
Right.
concerned about it, to say, are you
Yeah.
following those best practices? And if not, you better get someone who can help
And
you.
there's a pretty thorough section in the existing regs that is a sort of fail-safe. It is some general language saying that, no land use, no activity should ever do X, Y, and Z. And one of them has a pretty extensive discussion about soil erosion. So it is very possible to go there and say, I'm sorry, the zoning administrator, I'm sorry, you're in violation of this reg, kind of regardless of whatever process got us there. So at this moment in time, this is not acceptable under the regs. And then
Because of the erosion problem.
And yeah, I'm sorry, yes, if it was an erosion problem, and then she could begin, an enforcement action. So that's always there. In fact, it's sort of there, it's interesting, it just isn't done very frequently, but there are a set of basic performance standard regs in here that, are just requirements that just exist in the town. And, if you're doing something with or without a permit and are in violation of that, I think a case could be made by the town and zoning administrator that, an action is appropriate, and I think it would be supported by the courts, even if you weren't involved in the permitting process, by saying, so if it just was an activity that was underway and wasn't consistent with one of those performance regs, you could be called out on it.
I wonder if we could do sort of soft inquiry with Jeff Nugent to say, hey, Jeff, we have this 20% slope thing. Do you have ideas on how to use digital elevation models? And if you have a clever idea, what would it cost the town to have when the regional commission come up with a town map? Because
That shows 20% or.
thankfully, that's not something that's very dynamic, right? It's
Yeah.
sort of like our streams and things. It's like
Yeah.
20% slope is going to be 20% slope for the
Yeah.
foreseeable future,
Yeah.
at least.
And Jeff might have an idea or, any.
It seems like it's something that,
Expert
Yeah.
about the area of 20% that really becomes relevant.
it seems like
because
something
5
could be
feet of
derived
20%
from a
is not.
digital elevation model, right? Where
Five
you
feet
could
of
do
it
an
is not very
analysis, yeah,
important, but,
yeah.
25 feet might be more important.
Right.
So, yeah, okay,
Right,
but
it could
that's,
be,
yeah, that'd be an
you know,
interesting
if you
thing
have
just to see.
four pixels 4
Mhm.
abutting pixels of a certain slope on a digital elevation model. And that's an analysis I think someone could run who is
Yeah,
smarter than I.
we have seen mapping from Wyndham Regional that includes a steep slope designation in the past. I don't know how Jeff did it or what
Yeah,
database he's
yeah.
using, but yeah, it seems
Yeah,
like
and the
that-
state generated one for forestry use, for slopes over 35%. So like, it's something that can be calculated, and I think once you determine the methodology,
yeah,
it's, you know, kind of you write the code and it's an
Yeah,
automated process. It would be a one-time thing.
and if
So
it
maybe-
was simply to facilitate awareness, then I'm not sure you have to be so fussy about what the parameters
Right,
are.
it would be a tool that the zoning administrator
Yeah.
and an applicant could use
Can
to
look at.
determine if
Yeah,
Is it
slope
steep?
was something should be part of their application.
yeah,
That and erosion control, the two of them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank
We
you.
may
Do you want me
have,
to reach out?
yeah, Jeff may have an
Old copy of a.
map showing some
Yeah,
steep slopes.
He's done a lot of maps.
Yeah, I have a feeling that.
Yeah,
I've
it's done a
seen
lot
that
of maps, yeah.
Anything that makes it easy to reference and talk about is a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's part of the problem here is it gets real technical very quickly and nobody has the expertise. But if this is a great idea, Andrew, you know, because if it's just a matter of reading a digital map that can show the slope that way. See, this
And
is why
the-
it's so helpful to have you here.
Sort of the last thing I did was I clarified for myself mostly a confusing section that didn't make distinctions between uses and structures. And there are permitted uses and
Mhm.
permitted structures, you know, dwellings are structures, the use is assumed to be residential. It's just a gray area. So I tried to just clarify for myself what we're talking about where, and that in general, there was a kind of design approach that it's the number of dwellings is of less significance than the number of uses. So if you have a residential or a housing use and you have a duplex, or you had 2 single families, as long as the overall density impact was addressed, they're not very different. And so you could begin to just stop fussing so much, separate buildings from uses. It's section 310, 311. If folks want to take a look at it. It's not significantly
Well, they don't
different.
have it right now.
Yeah,
we
but when
got
they
it.
do, yeah. So nothing profound has changed in what's permitted and what's not permitted. It just was a clarification because it wasn't clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me or anybody on the DRB or Karen, you know, it's just wasn't. So those are among the things.
I'll mention to Ann that one of the things we talked about at the last meeting was not to allow, you know, garden supply or some
I
automotive.
read that in the
Yeah,
minutes.
and so that's not, you know, those are not permitted in the resource and conservation areas.
And sometimes you're putting resource and conservation areas together. Is there a?
No, they're separate. I mean, they're separately.
Yeah, they're
They're
separately.
many
Okay.
times treated similarly,
Yeah.
the standard for one, though there are differences between them,
Mhm.
like the acreage, for example. So,
So is it appropriate to talk about perhaps reviewing uses and buildings that are allowed within our current conservation districts? Just the current conservation districts as they've been for years, mapped.
mapped.
Well, our conservation
This
districts,
you're asking about the note that was part of
yes,
in your,
Minutes.
Anne replied to the
Okay.
meeting this evening
Okay,
with, like, could this be included in the
okay.
agenda
I'm
thing?
sorry, I didn't get to
That
my
email.
email today. Sorry.
today, no, actually, I just said sometime in the future, I'd like to talk about this.
Okay,
Basically, the current conservation areas, which have been there for years, they were set up by setbacks from roads
mhm,
along with the other zoning districts, as I understand it. This is from a little blurb that Jeff wrote in 2007 or something.
mhm.
So most of the conservation areas are simply 1,500 feet set back from the roads, and that gives you an area. And in all cases, these are forested areas because they're so far from the roadways, they haven't been developed. And when you look at, the areas that the town plan calls for to remain as forests, we've all been through this because Andrew mapped them very clearly. These sections, the conservation districts, the current conservation districts are really the core forests within each of the forest blocks where they appear. And so the question is, are the uses we've listed really appropriate for core forests? Core forest is defined by the A&R as 100 meters from human activity, or sometimes it's stated as 100 meters from the edge of the forest. There's the edge of the forest. The edge of the forest could be a house, a parking lot, a piece of land which is being farmed. It's not forest anymore, you know. But anyway, more or less, these are the areas that are really the most secluded and the most viable for wildlife habitat, and include some of our more sensitive wetlands, vernal pools, et cetera, et cetera. So the question is, in some cases, we've got Putney School has one, and Landmark, as we know, is near the conservation district. So we probably have to, at least for existing schools, have an educational use, expansion of education, if they wanted to do something like that, at least review it.
I'm holding this up because this is the chart, right?
Right.
That shows allowable uses, be it permitted or conditional. And maybe a first step for you would be to peruse this and determine if, from the Conservation's Commission's point of view, there are some of these which are currently permitted or conditional that the Conservation Commission would like to make a suggestion that they become permitted, conditional, or not uses.
That-
right.
Does that make
That'd be
sense?
good.
Yeah, we could do that at our next meeting.
And one of the things I, again, was laboring over that I used to take longer than you want them to, but I was creating that updated table to show the most recent version, including the results of the conversations in the last meeting that we had. And to show the changes relative to current regulations. So you can look at it and go, this is what it was no longer, and here's the new thing. Or if there's no change, it just is the same as it was originally.
Yeah.
Just to make it easy to do. I actually have
Great,
finished
thank you, because
that.
I'm working off the last, one that was in.
I actually have finished that. I just am bogging down on trying to make the dimensional standards. I just have to check back on page. It takes a long time.
Yeah, that would be useful to see.
I will,
some
I'm
feedback.
gonna get that to every, yeah. I'll
Feedback
get that
about
to
those
you.
uses. Just note that it's the most restrictive zoning district in town, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that as you go through this
No, I
list,
understand.
everything
There's
that's
been a lot
gray
of
here is a
done to
use
this.
that
Yeah.
is listed somewhere else in town and is not permitted in conservation. But,
So-
but I hear the concern, so it'd be useful to have item by item, yeah.
I have a question now that we're talking about it. I was also not at the last meeting and read the garden farm supply nursery
Yeah,
in the last, in the minutes. And was wondering, was the general concern that this was a use that hadn't previously been allowed, or was there a specific intention? And I wonder, I guess to my mind's eye, there's a question about scope of garden farm supply / nursery, those being maybe different things. Like a garden farm supply to me is a building that sells garden farm supplies, whereas a nursery is a place where you grow plants. And there is a small native plant nursery in the town of Westminster that's getting its feet under it up. What is it, up our road, or what's the just looked it up because Bemis Hill Road.
Oh,
Right at the top of Bemis Hill Road.
Okay.
Right, which probably in Putney, given how our zoning works, might be in a conservation or resource district. But I think you and I would both agree that a small native plant nursery is maybe a useful thing for our community to have more of. So,
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because when the word nursery comes into mind, I think of nurseries which often have plants which are not native.
sure.
And also I think of it as a business with people driving in, stopping. You know, I think of it as a very active.
Like
area.
Agway on Putney Road,
Sure,
is that
right.
the model that comes to mind?
Walker Farm.
Excuse me? Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
Agway,
Yeah.
Highway, Walker Farm,
Yeah.
whatever.
There's traffic.
There's traffic, there's people, very good,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
these are tough calls. I think in general, I was and am maybe a little more sympathetic to the notion that we could tweak this list with an eye toward trying to think about making the conservation zoning district reflect more of the goals of the town plan in regards to conservation. But it is tough because sort of geographically, there may be places there that really aren't very that are more public or more accessible, and it wouldn't be unreasonable or wouldn't have significant impact to do something like a nursery that even had some public.
I mean, our conservation district isn't just forest. There's quite a lot of ag land that falls within
Actually,
the conservation district.
Jeff looked at that. 90% of our good agricultural soils are in the resource rural residential districts.
Soils or
Soils.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of existing cleared land that's being utilized for, like, our conservation district is not a direct overlay with the forest blocks.
Actually, it is. They're within the forest blocks.
Yes, that's true, but it's not a direct overlay in the sense that everything within conservation is part of a forest block. I don't believe that that's a true statement.
There's actually subdivisions within the forest block at this point. That's existing.
There's that too, but I guess what I'm suggesting is that area that's being used for agriculture might be an area where
A nursery could be.
someone could establish a nursery. And if a nursery means growing plants, that means something different to me than a nursery, which is like a garden
So,
supply
yeah,
store.
I think we need to
So,
look closely at,
yeah.
I don't think there's any good ag soils within the conservation areas, but we can look at this. Jeff,
I mean, there might not be prime ag soils. It's
these
not
were-
to say you couldn't,
Jeff
have
did
a
this
tree
map,
nursery.
and again, good agricultural soils don't
Yeah.
move either. So I'll
Sure.
ask Jeff, he's already done the map, if he can
no, the
just
prime
send
ag
us.
soils exist.
If
They're easily
he could send us
accessible
that
yeah.
map of those soils.
Yeah.
And most of then he did an overlay of green on the pink, and therefore you can't tell the green's all on pink, but the farms that were active back in the early 2000s. And they're pretty much where the good soils are.
That would make sense.
Yeah, so why
Well,
don't I
agriculture is,
ask him? I'll just ask
Agriculture is
him.
another thing.
it's a permitted use everywhere in town.
What is?
Agriculture.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
so-
that's
so
in the
when-
state's hands. Isn't it?
Agriculture that was growing plants for sale, wouldn't you call that a nursery?
Well, it depends on what kind of plants they are, right? So if you're growing spinach, those are plants for sale. That's food,
That's
right?
agriculture.
And that's agriculture. And
Growing
if you're growing
Trees, then
an
I
apple
guess it's,
tree
yeah, then
for
it's
food.
becomes a
Yeah,
nursery.
So
I
I,
don't think we need to go
Yeah.
into. the
I think,
details now,
I
but
think
I'll
it
get
comes
Jeff-
down to the
that's a good point,
definition
and I'll
of
give you a good
nursery and
agricultural
agriculture.
soils map.
Yeah, I
And
think in
your goal
general,
not to fragment.
lowering the impact from commercial uses is very reasonable.
Yeah.
But where you draw the line, because there may be some commercial uses, as we just sort of,
Mhm.
brainstorming here, like nurseries,
argument.
that might be very reasonable, in those locations. So this is the best that we've done so far,
Yeah.
which is parsing or editing the list from the existing
Mhm.
regs
Mhm.
and making it a bit more stringent.
Mhm.
But if there's more stuff that should, be reconsidered, then we can do that. It's also this idea that if it's a conditional use, that's the opportunity to. It's an opportunity for the DRB and for anyone else in town to comment on about the appropriateness of that use or the impact of that
Yeah,
use.
the impact.
But
Yeah.
what I would ask people to do is to look at the current zoning map. And then to just in your own mind's eye, because you know the town, think what's going on in those areas that are designated conservation district right now. And is it forest? Is it ag? Is it institutional? In which a couple cases it is. And just see what makes sense to us as to what should happen in those areas. Because I think what we're sort of talking about, I think we need to just refresh our memories as to exactly where these, because we've been talking so much about forest blocks. I think we should just slow this down in the conservation district.
Yeah, I think that's
So
good. I mean,
any Concom input would, I really appreciate.
Okay, we'll do
Yeah.
it.
that would be great.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing it up, Anne. And I'm glad I came back to saying, based on the last conversation, we did respond to the suggestion about limiting
Mhm.
uses to what was already there. All right. Anything else, Pip, you wanted to bring up? I think that's pretty the sum of it. It's the project is requiring some very quiet, undisturbed time to really pull the document together. And I mean, Pip has done his part. He's still tweaking some things. But I'm trying to pull the document into a shape that is well formatted and the changes, the substantive changes are clear. When I'm accepting all the format changes, and you have no idea what that does to this document. It's quirky, so it takes quite a while to get that right. And to just check the references as I'm going through it to make sure that they're all correct as best I can. So my intent is to have it done. I'm gonna definitely this month. I keep thinking I was gonna have it done in November and then I didn't. And it will go to the town attorney when we're done with that. There's a number of the comments and questions that we need legal review on that have been flagged. And to get another final review before we have a public review document. So I don't think that we can have that done as I sit here on December 8th for our January meeting, which I think is.
We would hope you have some holidays here and there.
Right, January 6th. So I don't see that happening for our January 6th meeting. It could be at the attorney's office, but we might not have any feedback back and ready to go. So that's our next step. And it's on my desk, working with Pip to do that. And I will do my best to clear my desk, and I'm getting there because we're going to launch the comprehensive village plan. We're going to get that RFP out, and that will help. And so that's where we are. And then when we're done with that and we can schedule our hearing, we will do that. And that will be the way to wrap up stage 1. And really want to do that early in the new year. Then we will dive into stage 2 and figure out our plan for that. This is a good time to talk about this advisory committee. We had invited this advisory committee to work with us through the whole bylaws. We didn't have a stage 1, stage 2 when we began. We got there in the process saying we need more time to work on forest black protection and make sure we do that well. So we'll finish stage 1, which is housing, administrative improvement, just overall efficiency and updating relative to state law. So that's what we're wrapping up now. There is the possibility still, I haven't given up on it yet, but we might not do it, to incorporate the subdivision regulations into the zoning regulations. So it's unified regulations. I now know what that term means. We have other sections like wireless communications already in there.
I would postpone the subdivision regulations until the protection of forest blocks is worked out. Because if you create a lot that can't meet those zoning regulations, then you might as well. In other words, if you create a lot which is smack in the middle of something you want to, forest you want to protect, and the lot's already been created under the current zoning, which it very well could be, because there's no restrictions, it's just, you know, it's a big enough lot, and it's allowed, you know, it's a 27-acre lot, it's allowed, or it's a 10-acre lot, it's allowed. Once that lot is there, then you make regulations that say, oh, by the way, that lot is right smack in the middle of a protected forest area, which is protected by these regulations, blah, blah, blue. The lot can't comply. What are you gonna do?
Well, everything gets grandfathered. You know, I mean, that's the whole concept.
Well, yeah,
So,
we've got.
legacy, and that's, we don't.
Yes, right, we don't.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is you don't want to create that situation if, I mean, those lots that exist now exist. Punto. You know, that's just that. But why have subdivision regulations in the future which allow you to create in the future a lot which does not comply with the zoning regs?
So
Like it's close to a wetland. It's within 100 feet of a class, 50 feet of a class 2 wetland, or it's put in the wrong location, given the forest block stuff.
None, all of those regs exist, all of those concerns exist. You know, if there's a wetland and someone creates a lot that has a wetland, the lot has a wetland, they can't build on it.
Yeah, and in the fall, we're gonna have regulations which stipulate how you prevent or try to prevent forest fragmentation with certain restrictions, very much like what other towns are doing. And you may very well be creating lots that cannot comply.
So
The subdivision
I
regulations have to
hear you
incorporate
about
that.
subdivision will be affected when we come to whatever forest block protection regime we're taking. It could be an overlay district. We might look at other things too. I'm gonna be open-minded about how we do it, because I don't know the best way.
And the community may decide that the community doesn't think it's in their best interest, period.
Right.
So I don't think you can, that you're putting the cart
Yeah.
way in front of the horse.
But
I'm gonna finish the thought I was saying.
Sorry.
If I could, Andrew,
Yeah.
and that's that. So what we've done to the existing subdivision regulations that Pip was just talking about is we've updated them to comply with state law. Okay, we're just making them consistent. There were some tweaks. We did some language updates consistent with how we've done language updates elsewhere, but we haven't substantively changed
No,
the subdivision regulations in any way. So they exist, they still, you know, I mean, we're not proposing to make them go away. We do want the subdivision regulations at this point. We don't think it makes sense to, you know, do away with them. So my only thing is that I was thinking about integrating them as a chapter of our zoning regs versus having a separate set of regulations. Benefits of that would be consistent definitions between the two. I'm trying to ease administration.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
That they be coordinated. What I'm saying is why bother doing that until you know?
well, I think we're gonna have a little better set of subdivision regs than we have right now.
Yes,
And as I think you know, all of the rules about how you subdivide, about the creation of a lot, all the dimensional requirements are in zoning. They're not in the subdivision regs.
yeah.
Right, no, I think they
So
should.
so it's, you know, whatever, I mean, I'm not sure what your concern is
So I-
precisely, you know, but the impact of development on the forest blocks is not gonna be constrained significantly by, you know, a subdivision reg or by zoning until we address specifically those issues, and we haven't gotten there yet.
And then
So I think we should
when we
have,
do it, and we will look at comprehensively of the impact on our zoning bylaws, right? It may be not just a new chapter. It could be changes have to be made elsewhere in the document.
Yes, exactly,
Okay.
that's what's.
So I'm saying, we're gonna do step one. Step one is trying to align with state law, do administrative efficiency where we can. We're doing this district use table, this, you know, the dimensional standards table. We're doing all these things to make it easier for everybody to do that. That's what stage one is doing. And with that, we're talking about cottage clusters and some things that are trying to give us more options and flexibility for how we do housing in more affordable ways. So we agree that we're gonna do stage two. We're gonna look at forest block protection, as I call it, defragmentation and protection. And preservation, and we'll look at everything. We're not gonna just look at inserting a chapter or something. We will look at what's the best policy and then figure out how to integrate that into the overall. So we might be looking at everything again, right? There could be some changes in definitions on things that we already have. That's
Yeah,
okay,
no, that's what
that
I'm
may
saying.
happen, but let's do that holistically. It's stage two, and stage one, let's finish what we're doing, which is administrative efficiency. And in that, I thought if we could get down to one overall set of regulations versus two, that might be better. It may be that's gonna be too much to do, given that we're running out of gas on this whole thing.
And the subdivision regulations still say that the subdivision should follow the town plan.
Yeah, again, I'm talking about putting them into, like, I'm taking.
That's already there.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, so that's the one other thing we're giving thought to as we try to integrate everything else, and can we put those in, what is the impact? And probably need help from legal counsel to make sure we understand that fully, but I will write a plan for what I think it would take to do it, and then we can assess whether doing it is, worth it.
Okay.
Yeah, the big picture about the subdivision regs is that they talk about how you create lots. The
Yeah.
uses of those lots are then constrained by zoning. But it does go into some detail about infrastructure, primarily for new residential, somewhat suburban-like development.
Yes.
So that if you were to do multiple houses, it talks about how you'd lay out a road and about having some
Yes.
attention paid to the utilities that would then be required and emergency services and
I've
stuff
read
like
them
that,
quite
which is all good and appropriate, but it's not getting into anything in terms of industrial or significant commercial uses. It doesn't go into any real depth about that.
And it
really is.
doesn't mention avoiding forest fragmentation.
But the regulations do, again, that's, again, if it's part of the overall bylaws.
They do.
We don't,
No,
we don't,
specifically.
Ann, because we haven't figured it out yet. So we're no further along, than we were before. I mean, I think we are much further along in that we have thought in great detail about it. And I personally was surprised at the amount of public response we got by those affected landowners. And I think that we really need to pay attention to that. And that's what's driving, in my mind, this pause so that we can really understand a lot of the technical details around the implementation of reg that would avoid fragmentation. Because I think you'll find that not everybody thinks that it's a serious problem.
Again, I'm gonna have to look at the cost and impacts and feasibility, like, I find something we can feasibly do and the cost and impact.
And so it's on our agenda as the next big thing.
That's what stage two is all about,
Yeah.
and we're committed to it, but we just don't wanna hold up what we've done already for that process. So, I'm proposing that we reform this advisory committee when we get to stage two. We just sort of we start again. And give people a chance to
And you
be.
have to own land within a forest to qualify.
We never have done that. You see
Okay.
how we just did an advisory committee for the comprehensive village plan? That's how we do it. I ask people to make
If you
a
want
18-month
something
commitment.
that garners broad community support,
Yeah, you've got it.
then you all need to start talking to the affected landowners.
Yes,
In a
that
big-
would be a good idea.
In a big way.
And that would be a very good
Yes.
thing.
And I think that's easily done by, going through the details of how would you actually use this? How would it actually, like your piece of land and all these other pieces. Anyway. that's
I think it's a
whole other
high, there's
conversation.
really that, but I think there's building relationships and listening.
Yeah.
What are the concerns that people have? And they need to listen to the other concerns that people have. But it's very hard to have people listen to your concerns if you're not listening to their concerns. That's just that's what democracy, I'm gonna use that right now. Democracy requires us to listen to each other. And when we do that, we sometimes find a way forward that actually works. But that's why the pause, because we couldn't have that conversation in a short time.
Mhm.
And I
I
think
agree, a lot more things need to be done.
there is, and I wanted to get done what we could. I want to put a stamp on something well done and then say, but we're not done because we have this other issue. And we will step back and look at the bylaws, integrated or not with subdivision, to look at the impacts of what we come to and how it would have to change. Okay, so it'll be holistic, but we're just gonna do that in stage 2. So we hear you. We're just not, and I know it's disappointing that we're taking more time. You know, I
It's
get
not
that.
disappointing.
Yeah, well, we're not finishing, you know, the fragmentation policy now, and that would have been nice for some folks, but we're committed. So, to the conversation. All right, so that's the update. Anything else anybody wants to bring up about zoning?
I wasn't sure if we had finished having a conversation about forming a new committee.
Well, we
Versus-
haven't, yeah, I think. Well, first of all, I will invite the current members of the current committee to stay with the project if they want to. But I did ask you to do it for 18 months, and 18 months has arrived. So,
Wow.
really?
I'm shocked.
Well, maybe it'll be January. We started in September a year ago.
Good heavens.
And so January will get us pretty much to that. I don't need to end it right now, but I'm mindful when I ask people to make a commitment that I come back and honor that, you know, it's not an open-ended, you know, just an ongoing thing. We're taking more time. Okay. You can stay with us. I hope we're finishing in January, you know, our hearing might have to be in February. I'd like to do it in January. I don't know how long the attorney will need to review things and what that will mean, so. Maybe it's not done, but I'll just say, if anybody wants to say, you know, I appreciate the opportunity, I need to move on, you're welcome to tell me that. You know, you've met your commitment. I welcome you to continue to finish stage 1, but I also feel like I need to give people an off-ramp.
And perhaps it's an opportunity to invite committee members to think about ways to engage new folks too,
Yeah.
especially if you're considering maybe ending your involvement with the committee at this point. And in particular, you know, affected landowners as a great opportunity to build relationships and invite them into the work too.
Well, I hope to do that really with stage 2. I mean, if they're interested in stage 1, that's fine. I think they're mostly interested in stage 2.
Sure, but this is a planting a seed moment for
Yes.
committee members to consider how we can
Yeah,
how we can involve other people
Yeah.
that might be especially interested in stage 2.
okay, that's great. So I think what we're saying is, 1, it'd be great if committee members should indicate whether they want to continue for a couple more months to finish stage 1. That'd be good to know, because if you're not, then I'm gonna take you off the distribution list, you know, and not bother you with my meeting notices. But indicate interest in continuing through stage 1, which could be a couple more months. And also to provide feedback and
Doug has
suggestions.
just raised his hand.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Is it Doug that had the question?
I was saying yes.
Okay, yes, you will
Oh.
provide feedback,
Different kind of.
Yeah, I hit the wrong button. Yes.
okay?
I'll stay involved through the end.
Okay, thank you, Doug. And provide feedback about engaging others.
Yes,
Great.
yeah.
So there's a message to go out about that. Vanessa, you can help me write that. Okay. All right, thank you for that. At the very end of my agenda, when we were finished, schedule for the next 12 months. Back to my planning commission chairs report, I did put a schedule in that. On page 3. You can't see it very well because it's not in color, but you get an idea of what's going on. So you'll see that I show on page 3 of the planning commission chair monthly report that we will finish stage 1 by the end of February of,
I know where it is.
you don't,
Nice document.
but there's one that's called planning commission chairs report to the select board. December 5th. This is the one I'm presenting Wednesday night to the select board.
Okay.
Oh,
Got it.
okay, yeah.
So on page 3, there's a little chart and it's a
Yeah.
schedule.
Yeah.
So it shows that the zoning bylaw stage 1 is completing in February. That's my current projection. I really want that to happen. And stage 2, begins, it begins, if we're thinking about it now, I'll begin it in earnest once stage 1 is done. And just to finish one thing, begin the next. So probably February, March, we'll be scoping that and figuring out the way we're gonna do it in our plan. And resources that we might be able to access. Putney Landing Walkway is ongoing. I can see that I didn't start this in December, but this is ongoing. And as I said earlier, I really hope this summer we could see something on the ground, but we'll see. It is a very administrative, complicated process. Putney's Enhanced Energy Plan is a project that we will begin in June or July. Might be more like July or August if the comprehensive village plan goes a little longer. The comprehensive village plan is started. We've been recruiting and we hope to be done by the end of July for that. And that's when we begin the enhanced energy plan. And then the comprehensive recreation plan is something assigned to the planning commission in the town plan. And a municipal planning grant could be applied for next September for that. And that is something I've been talking with Karen about doing. So we may be helping the town get that done. And exactly how that will go, we'll get to later, but we do have it on the schedule and that will be in the budget for 2027 to do another project like that. We would be looking for a grant, obviously, to do it. And then housing initiative planning is just ongoing. As you see, I told you earlier, I'm seeking ways to bring some towns together and seek funding to begin housing coordination services. And the comprehensive village plan will be very important, I think, in the strategy about collaborations with employers for workforce housing. I think there's some strong interest in identifying how the village plan can help de-risk some of that and move some of that forward. So I think there's a number of ways the housing initiatives are, and that's embedded in a bunch of things. I don't have a specific track for it. That's the schedule. When Karen and I meet to work on the 27 budget, there may be another thing that comes up that we need to help the town with, especially as we look at the town plan and what we haven't given attention to yet. But that's the current story as I see it. Karen, do you want to add anything to that? No. Okay. So that's what the budget development is about. Any comments, suggestions before I adjourn the meeting? Feedback?
Journal.
Okay.
Thank you for your comprehensiveness in preparing our packets.
Yes, you're welcome. You're very welcome. I did not meet my own standard today. I didn't have my zoning packet ready. Oh, well, thank you for your, I'm forgiving myself starting now.
Good job.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. And I'll be in touch with advisory committee members about your role, staying in stage 1 for a little longer. Thank you, Karen, for joining us tonight.
I move in second.
Goodbye, Rye. It's all been moved.
everyone.
Okay, we're adjourning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, everybody. Jim.